Everyone who wants to become a physician in Canada will transition from medical school into residency. The process of securing a residency position is called the R-1 Main Residency Match, or R-1 Match, and it's facilitated by the Canadian Resident Matching Service, or CaRMS. CaRMS is an organization governed by a board of directors and closely aligned with many major medical organizations. Their R-1 Matching Service is a national system that connects graduated medical students to residencies in every specialty and family medicine. CaRMS also has 3 additional match programs. The Medicine Subspecialty Match is for residents currently in an internal medicine residency training program who are looking to apply for subspecialty training. The Family Medicine Enhanced Skills Match is for applicants who are completing or have completed residency training in family medicine in Canada and want to pursue enhanced skills training. The Pediatric Subspecialty Match is for residents currently in a pediatric residency training program who are looking to apply for subspecialty training. There are several steps in the CaRMS process each year, beginning in the fall and running into the spring. 1. CaRMS opens for applicants and program descriptions are posted on the CaRMS website. 2. Applicants submit translation requests for references. 3. CaRMS opens programs for applicant selection. 4. Medical schools submit transcripts and performance records to CaRMS. 5. Referees submit references. 6. Applicants finalize their application, ensuring all required documents have been submitted. 7. The file review period. 8. Programs offer interviews to applicants. 9. Programs conduct interviews with applicants. 10. The ranking period. Applicants and programs submit their rank order lists, or ROLs. 11. Preparing for match day. 12. Match day. 13. Second iteration and post-match options. 14. CaRMS closes for the year. The R1 match timeline changes slightly from year to year. The timeline for this year's match is available on the CaRMS website. The R1 match opens in the fall and applications are due in late fall to early winter each year. Residency programs then have a couple of weeks to review the applications. If you'd like to withdraw your application, you'll need to do so before this review period closes. Following this, medical students are offered interviews by the medical school of their prospective residency, typically between February and March. After these interviews are conducted, applicants and programs indicate their preferences by creating a rank order list, or an ROL. CaRMS goes through several processes in the matching process, where the algorithm-based system reviews applicant ROLs, program ROLs, and the number of available positions. CaRMS always favors the applicant ROL over the programs. The algorithm attempts to match each applicant and program with their first choice for each position. When that is not possible, it moves down through the ROLs to find the next best match. After this period comes match day, where medical students are informed where they are being offered a residency. Some applicants may not match. This can be very difficult news to receive, but there are various options available as next steps, which will be presented later in more detail. Most medical students participating in the R1 match apply individually, but there's also an option for a couples match, which allows a pair of applicants to submit together. This can help couples looking to do residency together to secure 2 positions at the same location. However, applying for a couples match can lower the chances of a successful match because it requires 2 positions to be available. In the event that a couples match is not possible, CaRMS will proceed to find individual matches unless the applying couple indicates that one of the applicants will withdraw from the match if it is not possible for them to match together. This process applies for Canadian medical graduates, sometimes called CMGs, participating in the R1 match. American medical graduates are referred to as USMGs, and there's a slightly different process to transition from American medical schools to Canadian residency programs. Other international medical graduates, IMGs, have another process for application. This video will focus on the process for Canadian graduates applying to Canadian residency programs, but resources are available for all medical graduates. As you complete medical school and pass the required exams, the first step in getting ready for the R1 match is to begin preparing your application. Starting early is highly recommended. Applications require a lot of thought and work, so giving yourself ample time to prepare is essential. You also need to prepare financially. For the 2023 R1 match, the participation fee is about $300 and includes applications to 4 programs. Each additional program you apply to will cost an additional $57. In recent years, CMGs have typically applied to over 20 programs, with an average total cost of about $1,200. This means costs of around $1,500 for the typical Canadian medical graduate. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, interviews for the R1 match were conducted in person, and many students faced additional costs of several $1,000s for flights, hotels, and other travel expenses. As of 2021, interviews have been conducted virtually. greatly reducing costs and travel time. Should interviews again be conducted in person, you'll need to plan accordingly for these costs. Before you start your application, you must decide on your preferred discipline. As you probably already know, there are many different specialties in which you could practice. You can apply to multiple disciplines, but ultimately you will want to select the ones that you would be interested in practicing for the rest of your career. This requires a lot of reflection, which can be supported by discussions with other medical students, residents, practicing physicians, professors, family, and friends. You may also be able to shadow a practicing physician, if your medical school can arrange it, and see what a day in their discipline is like. Some physicians do change their discipline during their residency or even afterwards, but proceeding with the highest confidence in your application will set you up for success in the near and long term. Statistics about each discipline and medical school can be found in the current edition of the Canadian Fédération of Medical Students Matchbook, as well as the Fédération médicale étudiante du Québec Guide des résidences. These guides will help you understand your options and are essential resources to use when planning for your applications. When selecting which residency program you're going to apply to, you should consider several factors in addition to the discipline. Be sure to ask yourself these questions. Where is the residency? Do you have friends or family nearby? Is it easy for you to visit home? What is the culture like there? Does it have the amenities you might want? Do you have a partner or relationship that might be affected by where you would live? What is the rotational structure like? Does it involve multiple sites? Are there research opportunities? What kind of lifestyle and career would you have in that discipline? Would the hours and work be satisfying to you? Would the setting, be it a hospital, clinic, private practice, etc., be right for you? Where would you like to be practicing as a physician? Are you looking for an urban or rural center? Is there a known demand for your discipline where you would like to practice? By thinking beyond the application and even the residency, you can better set yourself up for satisfaction and success. Once you've considered these details, you can begin your application. When evaluating programs, consider if French or bilingual programs and rural or remote streams might be right for you. French and bilingual programs do require comfortable French-speaking fluency for interviews, as well as fluency in reading and writing in the program itself. Consider whether rural and remote settings would suit you. Many programs provide opportunities for applicants to connect with current residents or program directors. This can help you learn more about the programs and evaluate if they're the right one for you. Always check to see if there's communication opportunities available and take advantage of them. Not only can they give you more confidence in selecting the right program, but you may learn some valuable tips on how to submit a stronger application. The CaRMS website has a list of program descriptions and details that can help you customize your application. Be sure to note maximum word counts as well. If you don't respect word counts or you leave out required program-specific details, your application may be filtered out. Your application requires a general CV that includes your language skills, LMCC or other licensed medical training, achievements, interests, undergraduate or CEGEP education, graduate education, medical education, clinical electives, professional training, work experience, volunteer experience, scholarly activities, research, and more. In addition to the general CV, some programs also allow you to provide tailored CVs. It's a good idea to start with a strong general CV and then tailor it to each program, or at least each discipline, that will accept a customized version. By customizing your CV appropriately, you can highlight the most relevant details for that program. You will also need to submit personal statements, which you should tailor to each program that you apply to. This is an opportunity for you to demonstrate your interest, motivation, and fit for each program. It also allows you to speak to your long-term career goals and how that particular residency program will help you fulfill them. While your CV contains a list of facts, the personal statement puts them into context and helps tell the story of why you're a good fit for the program. It helps if your personality and enthusiasm for the program shines through. These details can help paint a fuller picture of you as a person and as a candidate. Making sure that your CV and personal statements are grammatically correct, well-written, and appropriate to the programs is an essential step. Even though you may spend a lot of time working on the documents and feel that they are ready to go, it's a very good idea to have at least one other person review them before you submit it. It helps to ask someone who is a strong writer, familiar with the CaRMS process, or both. Be receptive and grateful to the feedback and take any suggestions to heart. Ultimately, you decide on the content that you submit, but a good editor can help you elevate your work and make you look your best. Another key component to your application is reference letters. These are letters attesting to your skills, drive, and experience that illustrates your fit for residency. When requesting letters of reference, make sure you approach people who have sufficient positive experience working with you and that they can speak to your abilities and strong work ethic. It takes time to write reference letters, so request them 4 to 6 weeks before the deadline. You can request them from physicians you worked with on your clerkship, electives, or shadowing, researchers you worked for, medical school or graduate study professors you have impressed, trusted authorities you worked with in extracurricular activities, or employers that you've recently worked for. It's important to start the application process early because it gives you time to think carefully about all of these details. You'll do a great deal of learning while preparing your application and may revisit some of your earlier perceptions, intentions, or goals. It's okay to explore different paths and programs while you prepare your application as long as you feel confident on the details you select when you submit it. Talk with other medical graduates and residents, invite and be receptive to feedback, be mindful of what you submit. There is no perfect application. You may feel like you need more detail, but by giving yourself as much time as possible, you'll be able to submit your application with confidence. After the application deadline is passed, programs have an opportunity to review applicant files. During the file review period, program directors develop a list of the candidates that they're interested in. The next step is the interview stage. The interview format varies by program and medical school. Common formats include the following. In one-on-one interviews, applicants answer questions from a single interviewer. In panel interviews, applicants answer questions from a group of interviewers, typically 2 or 3. In multiple mini-interviews, or MMIs, applicants circulate through a series of interview stations, typically 5 to 8, each focusing on a different theme or scenario. Stations vary, but they commonly include standard interview stations similar to the one-on-one interviews. Less often, stations may include standardized patients or actors, writing stations, or ethical scenarios. In addition, interviewers may or may not have access to a range of information from your application. In closed-file interviews, the interviewers do not have access to your CaRMS file. In this format, the interviewers will only know what you decide to share with them. If there are aspects of your application that you'd like to highlight, you'll need to incorporate them into your answers. In semi-open file interviews, the interviewers have access to certain aspects of your CaRMS file, such as your personal statement or your CV. Again, you should be prepared to highlight the most important parts of your file in the interview. In open file interviews, the interviewers have access to your full CaRMS file. With this format, it's important to ensure you remember all of the details of your application. The interviewers may probe regarding a specific experience referenced in your CV or an aspect of your personal statement. You'll be told before each interview what the format is and how much information from your file is available to the interviewers, so be sure to prepare accordingly. In addition to the formal interviews, you may be able to participate in some non-interview events. These can help build your understanding of the programs, the interview details, and the people involved in the program. This can include the following. Meetings with the program director may or may not be available based on the size of the program and the number of applicants. Strive to be interested but not overbearing. Some programs include a meeting with the program director as part of the interview day. Interview information sessions are events that enable programs to highlight and showcase aspects of their programs or sites. Programs are aware that most applicants are applying to multiple programs within the same specialty, and as such want to give applicants a sense of what they would experience if they were to successfully match to their program. Interview socials are an opportunity to meet staff physicians, program administrators, residents, and fellow applicants in a social setting. It's imperative that you behave professionally in all interactions, as you won't know who is on the selection committee or from whom the selection committee may seek input. Additionally, the Association of Faculties of Medicine of Canada offers CanPrep, a Canadian portal for residency program promotion, which features a calendar of many preparatory events with residency programs. It can be accessed online at canprep.ca. If you have an opportunity or receive an invitation to participate in a non-interview event, it is strongly recommended that you attend. If you don't attend, you may miss out on getting information you can leverage in your interview, and it can also be interpreted as a sign of disinterest in the program. If you are unable to attend a non-interview event because of an inflexible scheduling conflict, you should still respond to say that you would like to attend but are unable to because of the conflict. Not only is this respectful, but it also lets the program know that you're not disinterested in the program. Being organized and keeping an up-to-date calendar is essential during the interview period. It is very important to keep track of all interviews and non-interview events. Failing to attend an interview can reflect very poorly on you as an applicant. If your interviews are across multiple time zones, be sure to note the times and ensure you have your schedule synced to the time zone you will be in. During the interview, you will be asked a variety of questions to assess your fit for the program. While you may have a lot you want to share, time constraints or question formats may not allow you to share everything that you'd like. Be sure to work your most important highlights and qualifications into the questions you're asked within the time that's allotted. Question formats can include the following. Behavioral questions ask you to demonstrate behaviors, knowledge, skills, and abilities. Examples are questions that begin with, tell me about a time when, what do you do when, and give me an example of. Situational questions focus on the future and ask how you would approach a hypothetical situation. Examples include, what would you do if, And how would you manage? Knowledge-based questions require some background knowledge or may probe medical or personal ethics. An example would be an interpretation of a common investigation, such as an ECG. These questions may also present as clinical scenarios. Getting to know you questions may have nothing to do with medicine or your medical training experience. For instance, you may be asked to talk about your favorite movie or TV show, to describe who you'd like to have dinner with, or to talk about your hobbies. Keeping your application and the program details in mind, you should be prepared to answer these types of questions and others. Some interviewers may ask questions that seem unrelated or complex. They may be evaluating both your answer and how you provided it. You will be asked questions you haven't considered, and different interviewers may interpret your responses differently. As such, developing a general approach is more useful than preparing exact responses. Keeping calm and confident throughout conveys that you have good demeanor for the program and as a physician. When responding to questions, there are some guidelines that can help you provide strong responses. Take a moment to collect your thoughts. It is common and completely acceptable to take a few seconds before responding. Some candidates may elect to take a sip of water, while others will simply say, "I'm just going to take a moment to think about that question," or pause in silence. This will not negatively affect your interview. It is more thoughtful and professional to pause briefly to come up with a plan than to proceed immediately and lose your sense of direction during the answer. Ask for clarification when needed. Sometimes questions can be long, have multiple parts, or have unfamiliar phrasing. It is completely appropriate to ask the interviewers to repeat or rephrase a question to ensure that you've understood it. Keep it simple. In each answer, stick to one experience or role, unless specifically asked for more. This way you can describe in more detail the relevant factors, thus providing a stronger case for the skills you've developed or the relevance of this experience. Make the connection. Interviewers are not just asking questions arbitrarily. Assume there's an underlying connection between the question and a skill or experience that would demonstrate your fit for the program. Incorporating this into your response can make it easier for the interviewers to see you as their future colleague. Demonstrate growth through failure. You will probably be asked to describe mistakes or challenges that you've experienced. It is important that you reflect on what you've learned from those mistakes or experiences and describe what changes you have made because of it. Diversify the experiences you mention. Candidates often have several remarkable experiences that they'd like to highlight in interviews. To help demonstrate the breadth of your experiential background, practice discussing different experiences in response to similar questions. This way you can discuss different roles during the actual interview to show diversity without repetition. Use a framework that works for you. The internet has dozens of acronyms for ways to approach specific question styles. For example, STAR, where you identify the situation, task, action, and result. Generally, these involve potentially repeating the question, explaining the logistics or context surrounding the problem or experience, and then answering the specific prompt with the result and reflection at the end. There's no perfect way to answer, but it is important that you feel confident in the approach that you choose. End strong. Your closing statements on a question are often the most important and remembered. Summarize your overall answer to ensure that you have discussed every point that you intended to. The interviews can often be the most stressful phase of the R1 match process. While the application is a large body of work, it can be prepared in advance with support from peers. The interviews are conducted live, and you will not have any external help while they're conducted. That is why preparation is the best thing you can do to perform well in interviews. Mock interviews with peers, family, or friends is an excellent way to prepare. Here are some tips for mock interviews. Mimic the real interview setting. As much as possible, try to recreate the interview conditions. This should include virtual setup, location, clothing, and timing. This can help you become comfortable and adopt the mindset you will be required to have during your actual interview. Have the interviewer take notes. It can be helpful if the mock interviewer takes notes during your responses, as a real interviewer would. This allows you to identify the content that the interviewers might deem most relevant while receiving constructive feedback in the process. Practice answering on the spot. Have your interviewer ask you questions that you've not practiced. Answer thoughtfully as if you were in a real interview. This will help you develop your approach to novel questions and learn how to think on the spot. Practice full interviews. It's often appealing to practice question by question, debriefing after each one. However, it's also valuable to practice pacing through the overall interview structure. For example, going through questions successively will help you learn how to introduce a different experience for each question and tell a cohesive story. Arrange for multiple mock interviewers. Different interviewers will recognize different strengths and weaknesses. Practicing with friends, medical and non-medical, family, mentors, and school programs can provide you with diversified feedback. Record yourself answering questions. This will show you how interviewers will see you. Reflecting on the recording can help you evaluate the structure and organization of your answers, as well as your body language. It's also important to hear how your answers sound and to determine if they reflect what and how you intended to communicate. Mock interview your colleagues. Being on the other side of the interview process can help you relate to the interviewer's experience. It'll help you understand the pertinent aspects of the responses that interviewers may focus on, including nonverbal behaviors. Appreciate how your colleagues tackle different questions and can inspire your own approach. As mentioned previously, CaRMS interviews were formerly conducted in person, on-site, at the medical schools or their facilities. As of the COVID-19 pandemic, interviews have been conducted virtually. If you haven't done a virtual interview before, there are a few things to be mindful of. Use a reliable device with good video and sound quality, like a laptop or smartphone. It might be helpful to use external headphones or webcams. Disable any notifications on your device that may distract you during your interviews. Find a private, quiet location free of any distractions. If you live with others, ensure everyone is aware of your scheduled interviews to avoid disruptions. Ensure your background is appropriate and professional. Avoid virtual backgrounds when possible, as this may give an informal appearance. Test out lighting options before your interview to ensure your lighting is appropriate. Ensure your internet is stable and your speed is ample for video interviews. When the interview begins, it's a good idea to ask the interviewers if you're coming through clearly. Provide your phone number and document the interviewer's contact details in case of technical troubles. As you would for an in-person interview, dress professionally from head to toe. You might think you only need to dress for what's on screen, but you might end up standing up or moving around. Ensure that your attire is professional but comfortable. It should give you confidence and feel natural to wear while you're interviewing. Make sure you're fed, hydrated, and well rested before the beginning. Some light exercise and then a clean up into your professional attire can calm your nerves. Set aside some time to be feeling your best for the interview. Interviewing can be stressful. Ample preparation is the best way to reduce stress and increase success. Take as much time as you need to feel ready and don't be afraid to ask others for help. There are many resources and supports available to help you do your best. Regardless of the interview format, much of the advice is the same. Dress well, set yourself up for success, and feel ready and comfortable when you start the interview. During your interview, you may feel that you are exclusively in a position of wanting to join the program. But remember, the program also needs you. While being interviewed, you are also interviewing the program. Asking thoughtful questions and getting a sense of what's involved is important. Not only can this address your concerns, but it also demonstrates initiative and thoughtfulness, which interviewers value. Once you've concluded your interviews, the next step is to submit your rank order list, or ROL. This is your ranked selection of programs. It can include multiple programs and medical schools, as well as streams within each individual program. Keep in mind that you must only select programs that you would be willing to train in. If you renege on an offered match, you may incur penalties, which can include disqualification from participating in CaRMS for up to 3 years. Your application includes a contract, and this should be taken very seriously. When preparing your ROL, you should ask yourself the same questions as when you started your application to make sure that the programs you prioritize are right for you. You don't have to be a gastroenterologist to learn to trust your gut. If you've got a bad feeling or a good feeling about a particular program, it might be that there's details you can't identify, but that are shaping your choices. Above all else, you should feel confident with the ROL that you submit. If you are a couple looking for a placement together, you can request a couples match. Being able to do your residency with your partner can enable you to spend more time together and reduce costs, but it can also slightly diminish your chances of securing a placement because you're submitting an ROL jointly. A joint application increases the chance that one or both of you may go unmatched. Make sure you have a backup plan and consider the possibility of doing your residencies in separate programs and cities. This can lead to disappointments, but the nature of residency is such that you might not be able to be placed together. The CaRMS matching algorithm will attempt to match you to your programs of choice. It compares your ROL to the program ROL, noting the number of positions available. The algorithm always prioritizes the applicant's ROL over the program's ROL, aiming to ensure you receive your placements of choice. The CaRMS algorithm is typically very successful at placing applicants within their top 3 choices. Once the CaRMS system has analyzed and assigned roles and positions available, the next step is to inform the programs and applicants. The applicants are informed on what is known as match day, which is typically in March. The amount of preparation leading to match day can bring on strong waves of emotions, from joy to fear to excitement to disappointment. Whatever you may be feeling, it's important to be kind and gentle with yourself. Regardless of how confident you feel in your application and your interviews, the anticipation can be very stressful. It's very normal to feel overwhelmed. You may want to clear your calendar on the day or days beforehand and try to minimize any external stresses or concerns. On match day, you'll receive all of your outcomes from the first iteration of matching. There is a possibility of not being matched in the first iteration, which we'll discuss in more detail shortly. Even when you are matched, it's understandable to feel disappointed if you did not receive your first choice of program. The algorithm has a high success rate, but program needs and availability, as well as the strength of your application and interviews, can also affect the outcome. You should prepare yourself for any and all outcomes to avoid disappointment and an increasingly negative response. As with the anticipation leading up to match day, you may feel very emotional when you receive your outcomes, and some of your emotions may even feel contradictory. However, any way that you feel is valid. You should take the time to process your feelings. When speaking with your medical graduate peers, be mindful of their emotions as well. They may be excited, disappointed, relieved, remorseful, or something else. Do not make assumptions about how they feel and be respectful if they're not ready to talk about their results yet. Choose your words mindfully. Even in positive scenarios, emotions about match results run high, and it can be easy to upset someone. If you receive notice that you are unmatched in the first iteration, remember that it's not the end of your medical career. It's not a reflection of your medical knowledge, skills, or competency. Many factors shape the match, and some may be out of your control. Some programs can be extremely competitive or highly ranked, and accordingly have few positions open. Every year there are many who go unmatched in the first iteration, but nearly all of the applicants persevere and become practicing physicians. Take a deep breath, allow yourself to feel the emotions you're feeling, and remember that you have options. After the first iteration, there is an option for a second iteration. You can participate in this, but be aware that there are significantly fewer programs available, the pool of applicants is very different, and there is a shortened timeline to proceed. Before proceeding, consider the following. Is there a position available in a program that you could see yourself training at? What might change to make you a more competitive applicant between now and a future match cycle? The unfortunate reality is that applicants are statistically less likely to match with each passing iteration after their first one. Brace yourself accordingly. If your medical school gives you the option of deferring graduation to take a 5th year or 4th year for 3-year schools, participating in a second iteration may be a prerequisite of this additional year option. Inquire and do your due diligence before deciding on how to proceed. As with the first iteration, a match result is binding. Only submit choices that you would like to fulfill. Even if you participate in a second iteration but still go unmatched, there are still other options available. CaRMS offers a post-match process, PMP, that enables unmatched applicants to submit applications to programs still considering candidates. You must contact your postgraduate office to participate in this process. Available positions are listed in the post-match program descriptions on the CaRMS website and can be added or removed at any time. This process also has a defined and short timeline. There are still other options beyond the iteration and PMP. The Canadian Armed Forces offers a Medical Officer Training Program, MOTP. This is available to medical graduates and residents in family medicine. In the MOTP, you would proceed with what is effectively a family medicine residency, along with Armed Forces training. You would receive a salary, benefits, and vacation during this period. You'd be required to serve with the Armed Forces for a period of time, but then you would have a choice to continue with the Armed Forces or practice as a family physician or general practitioner or pursue other residencies or trainings. In the event that you go unmatched and the other options aren't ideal for you, you can reapply to CaRMS the following year. In the interim, you can continue your studies, conduct research projects, work in a healthcare-related field, or pursue any other number of options. Going unmatched is not the end of your career as a physician unless you want it to be. There are options and supports to help you succeed and achieve your career aspirations. Before, during, or after match day, you may feel more distressed than you can handle. There's no shame in this. You've put in a tremendous amount of work, and the matching process certainly puts a lot of pressure on you. There are many free and accessible supports that you can reach out to for help, advice, or just a friendly person to listen to you. The CMA has a free, confidential, bilingual, and 24/7 wellness support line available to you, tailored to each province and territory. Additionally, the CFMS has a directory of medical school-specific wellness resources. The FMEQ also has links to wellness resources, including school-specific links as well as unique supports for Quebecois medical students and physicians. Links will be provided in the description. The CaRMS matching algorithm has a high rate of success, and we hope that you'll receive the best news on match day. While beginning your residency is important, and this is a big step in your career as a physician, just remember that you will have the ability to change your residency, your specialty, and many other options for your career. Be sure to choose wisely in the CaRMS application process, as there may be penalties if you decline the program you match to. But after you start your residency, you may decide you want to switch streams to become a family physician or a specialist, or a researcher, or perhaps work in health administration, or explore any number of fields and roles the medical school has prepared for you, and that's okay. The important thing is that you feel confident during the R-1 match process and know that you still have lots of time